Is Death Rattle worth buying? Let's talk about that after we read the description of the game. A first-person shooter set in a medieval world ravaged by the ungodly forces of Hellion. You are the Death Rattle, humanity's last hope against the forces of Hellion. Use your special gifts and divine powers to challenge the marches of Hellion and turn the tide against these devils and demons. This game has a horrible tutorial. It basically tells you everything that you will ever do or need to do at the beginning of the game, so you will probably forget what some things do, but also it just pops up things on the screen, stopping the flow of the game and just leaving you standing there reading a box of text that's up on the screen, and every few steps that you take during the tutorial, it just pops up again. It just creates a very annoying tutorial and a bad first experience, and first experiences have a heavy impact of whether or not people continue to play or they just quit the game right there.
Keep moving.
This game is a very fast-paced first-person shooter. You will have your crossbow, which has different types of arrows, the best ones being explosive and splitting. You have bombs, and there's also different types of bombs, but the bombs all seem the same to me, so I'm not really sure what the difference between them is. I mean, I was told that they do more damage than others, but I don't really know which ones do more damage or really the difference between any of them, so they all feel the same. The only thing that is different between them that you can really see is the color of the explosion. You also have all arrow and bomb types immediately when you start the game. You don't have to unlock them, so you'll just get explosive and all the bomb types, just pretty much everything, just right at the beginning. So there's no unlocking different types of arrows or bombs, you just have them all, which, I don't know, it just seems kind of weird to me. You can also craft arrows, bombs, and potions, but since you have everything unlocked at the beginning of the game, you're most likely going to either not craft that much because you can find things scattered around the map, or you're only going to craft the explosive arrows and health potions because those are the two best things that you can craft. There are also different spells like the bombs, but again, I don't really see much of a difference other than the colors. So the bombs and the spells pretty much all felt the same when you threw the bombs or used the spells, though they just look different. There is loot that you can pick up, but I feel like this game needs an auto pickup system, so like when you walk over an item, it picks it up automatically instead of having to walk over to it and press F, because this game is just so fast paced. You're always running around, shooting your arrows, throwing bombs, shooting explosive arrows, using your magic, and you're just running around killing a bunch of enemies, blowing things up. You don't really want to stop and pick things up. You just kind of want to walk over it and have it pick up for you. There is a variety of enemies, but only the enemies with ranged attacks are the ones that you'll have to look out for, as they can be deadly, and they're most of the time when I die to ranged enemies because I get hit by one of their powerful ranged attacks. When you level up, you can get upgrades like health or mana. This game's environments are also mostly destructible, so it's always fun blowing stuff up and watching things break apart. So anytime that you shoot your explosive arrows, you hit an explosive crossbow, or use your magic to hit the barrels, just anything that explodes will destroy some of the environment, and it's pretty fun. The crossbow feels okay to use, though it's a little boring if you're not using the explosive arrows, and enemies are fun to blow up with explosive barrels and arrows. Actually, now that I think of it, most of the time I was either trying to shoot the barrels or using magic spells to kill all the enemies, because I didn't want to use the sword because the sword is boring and the crossbow is kind of boring. But the magic and the explosive barrels were fun. Maybe it's just because I like blowing stuff up, but the magic spells were fun to use. Just killing enemies with them were fun to use, and hitting them explosive barrels is always fun. Not only though is the sword boring and not really fun to use, it's also kind of useless. Movement speed feels a little slow at times when moving forward, but for some reason when you're like kind of strafing, holding W and D down to move forward and to the side at the same time, it actually seems to move faster for some reason. So if you ever want to move faster, you'll just hold W and D to kind of strafe around on your side, and so you're like, you can do circles around the enemies when you're you know, strafing a little bit, but when you're trying to just run straight forward, it's just like you're just so slow. And I'm gonna just toss this in here right at the end of the gameplay section, because this game has some bad frame rate issues and it's not very optimized. So even though some levels look unfinished and they're kind of a little empty, they just run terrible when there's lots of enemies spawned. The graphics of Death Rattle, the actual models and textures are decent, but most of the maps don't look very good because they look unfinished, they look unpolished. There's just a lot of empty space and bland looking areas. And also the ghost-like enemies, or at least that's why I call them ghost, just whatever you want to call them, they look out of place. They're either some kind of solid glowing white or a solid red, which just makes him look weird and out of place. Now, you know, if I have this category, it means something is wrong. The menus do not stay the same. The main menu does not have the invert mouse or head bob settings, but when in game it has invert mouse setting and head bob setting. But now on all levels, some levels have head bob and mouse invert settings and some don't. It's kind of weird. Those two options are not in the menu at all times, which is very strange to me. It also does not save your choice all the time, so sometimes you'll have head bob off and inverted controls off, but when you move on to the next level, it will turn head bob back on and inverted controls back on, or sometimes it won't. It's really just you roll a dice and see if it turns inverted controls back on, or if it turns head bob back on or off. It could be on or off, whether you like it or you don't like it. It just randomly turns on and off. It's very, very weird and strange that the menu does not save your choices and the menu doesn't have the same choices all the time. If you happen to pause the game and level up at the same time, it will try to bring up the pause menu and the level up menu, and the game just freezes and you'll have to Alt F4 out of the game, and it will reset you back to the beginning of that level. Also, in some levels the menu just does not work. You can't click on the options because you're just clicking but nothing is changing or happening. As some of you might already know, and I know some of you probably say I'm too harsh on games, but I would not recommend this game. It can be fun at times, but the game looks, and at sometimes it feels, unfinished. This game is also $17, and there is no way this game is worth $17. Maybe at most $5, but overall this game gets a not recommended from me. You can get better games for the same price or cheaper. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video, so hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment below, tell me what you guys think about this game and this video, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because you want to be subscribed, and I'll see you guys next time.